There it is.
Peace, peace, peace. There it
Peace.
is.
All
There
right.
it
Peace and
is.
blessings.
Man, bro. Sometimes it's just like we say, Stu, man.
Mm.
We're two or three gather, man. Two or three gather. If you love the Lord, just starting off, if you love the Lord, man, you know what time it is. It's
Hmm.
always principalities and things that, hey, man, we fight, and we're used to fighting. Especially
Hmm.
these two gentlemen that's on this screen with
Mm.
me tonight and with us tonight. And man, I'm just grateful. What is this, Stu? Night 10, I think.
Night 10. Yeah.
Yeah,
Night 10.
night 10, man. Very special. Um, it's only right, Stu. I'll pass the mic to you and let you introduce this handsome young man with us tonight, bro. So you got it. You got it, good
All
brother.
right.
Oh man. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are honored to be on tonight with a person that's near and dear to my heart,
Yeah, man.
Anthony A.B. Brown, retired Marine, Master Gunnery Sergeant.
Hmm.
You know, one of my my partners from the same MOS, and we gonna get into all of that. But man, AB, just wanted to say thank you for trusting me by putting a chapter in the Born to Risk book,
Yeah, bro.
and you didn't
Yes, sir.
disappoint, bro.
Okay.
Not,
Good, man.
Did
not at
not
all.
disappoint. And what we want to focus on initially is, the title of your chapter was Disciplined on Purpose. And it was
Mm.
chapter 20 in the Born to Risk book. Talk to us about how you came to the title in regards to what you wrote about in regards to discipline and purpose.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say salam alaikum, which means, peace and blessings to everyone.
Alaikum assalam. Yes,
Because,
sir.
I mean, I have to, I have to always, I want to be myself and I want to be genuine to you all.
Yeah.
And I want to say, peace and blessings to you both. I want to say to Stu, of course, how I hold you in high regard,
Yeah.
not only as a Marine, but as a husband, as a father, as a man. And when I use the word man, I want to say in a positive way, right? Like when I think of Stu, I think of a man, right? I think of someone that takes care of his home, he takes care of his family, and I appreciate you having me on this. On one, I appreciate you bringing me in on the book,
Yeah.
and then having me on this stream, and then of course to you as well, Tio. I appreciate you, brother. Our first initial conversation when Stu introduced me to you regarding the book, we had a great conversation while I was driving. We were both driving on the phone, and I think we spoke for about 45 minutes, just talking about
Yes.
life and just talking about how this book came to be and how we were going to approach this project. So I appreciate you, brother. As they say in the Marine Corps, it's like you're only 7 degrees separation from
Yeah.
Right.
anybody, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And it turns
Yeah.
out we know a lot of people, right? Even though you and I never really served together, but we know a lot of people, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
the only thing thing that carries you in the Marine Corps is your name, right? So
Yeah, bro.
you know what I'm saying? Your name, and if you're a slug, if you're a S bird,
That's
people
right.
are
Hmm.
gonna know, right?
That's a fact,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, but to get back to the title, discipline on purpose. I think I need to take it back, to my teenage years, my formative years of growing up. I grew up in Miami, single, come from a single parent home, and didn't really have a father figure in my life. Right, I
Mm.
had men in my life, or I should say male figures in my life, but they weren't what I my definition of a man. Right. And I said it with some grace as well, you know what I mean, because
Right.
people only know what they know, right? But I barely I made it through high school, and I knew I wanted to do something with my life, right? I knew that
Yeah.
I wanted to get away from Miami, to make my own way in this world. and the Marine Corps presented itself. And then when you join the Marine Corps and you're those first 2 or 3 years, you're still trying to find yourself, right? You're like, man, do I really want to do this? Like, I miss home. I miss partying with my friends and family back home. Like, I could be doing this and that, and I'm getting yelled at by somebody that's 2 years older than me, that's a corporal,
Right.
because back in the days, a corporal will lay into you, right?
What?
Oh man, big.
Light you up.
Yeah,
light you up.
Lance Corporal. Yeah.
God forbid, you walk past a gunny or a staff sergeant and your cover is crooked or this or that, or you got this, so I wasn't exactly sure about what I wanted to do, and long story short, I had a really good mentor who was like, hey, Brown, like you're a good kid. Like I can tell that you have some good upbringing, but you need to get it together, right? You can't be like in a uniform doing the right thing, and then when you take the uniform off, you can't be wilding out, right? So you got to get it together. So that's basically what he said. I'll never forget him. He dipped Copenhagen. He's from North Carolina, white guy, Southern accent, right? And he's just like, hey man, you really, really need to get together. Like, I like you, Brown. I don't want to see you get in trouble. I don't want this to be something that, you can't recover from. Yeah. And from that instance, man, like something clicked. You know what I mean? Like, and, but, I was able to make some rank. I was able to go on embassy duty. I was able to, progress and do some good things, able to get married. I had 3 children in my first marriage. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Like, it was performative. You know what I mean? Like, it was, yes, I was doing what I was supposed to do, but it was performative. Like, you want to be noticed for your fitness reports. You want to be noticed to be a good husband. You want to be noticed to be a good father, right? And when you have that type of mind frame, it's not really a discipline. It's like it's false. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, but it's not real, right? It's not. You're just performing, right, so that you can do the things, so you can get what you want, right? And I went through a divorce because. I just basically a lot of things that you do, some of the things that you do as a young Marine, you know how it is on deployments and stuff like that. And, you make some mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes come back to bite you. And, just saying, well, I provided a roof for you over your head, and I provided for the children. It's not enough. No. And I was like, man, I really need to get myself together. Like, I really, really I really need to encompass what the word discipline means. And to me, Anthony Brown right now, 2026, discipline means being present. It means doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, right? It means saying my prayers on time, right? It means being a good husband to my wife, to my now wife, right? I'm newly married.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And then on top of that, holding myself accountable for the mistakes that I made as a father. There's nothing I could do about my previous marriage. There's nothing I could do about that. But I held myself accountable. But it's more about accountability, presence, doing what's right, not for performance, but because it's the right thing to do. And as I tell all my kids and my stepson, discipline is probably the greatest gift you can give yourself, because motivation is going to run away. Like, you're going to wake up some days and you're just not going to be motivated to go to the gym. You're not going to be right? You're not going to be motivated to go to work and be to work on time and do your job. You're not going to be motivated sometimes to be present with your wife or be present with your kids. But when you instill real discipline in yourself, and I
Mhm.
mean, real discipline, you know, what we're called to be, what men are called to be, you're going to find that life is much, much better. Like we were talking earlier, like I feel like my life is much better because of the discipline that I have for myself, right?
Mhm.
And I just try to be the best leader I can for my wife. Now I try to be a good leader for my kids, including my stepson. And so yeah, that's what that I would say when I approached writing my chapter. That was my approach. That's what I had in my mind. You know, taking what I learned as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, up into being a husband, to being a father, to
Mhm.
where I am now. And yeah.
Bro, you said at what point in your life, in your career, did it stop being performative? Because it seemed like you had gone through all of these things in your life as a young man, as a
Mhm.
husband, father, as a Marine, and you were in the Marine Corps for almost 30 years.
Right.
When was that moment when you said, I gotta get myself together?
Right. I would say definitely up until my last 4 or 5 years, right? Especially, as a sergeant, you're, sergeant, staff sergeant,
Mm.
you're doing all these things to get yourself promoted, right? And you're
Right.
trying to be noticed, you're trying to be seen,
Yeah.
by your superiors so that you can get a good fitness support, right? So
Mhm.
because that's what helps you get promoted, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I would say that up until up until I was about a gunny, it was kind of performative, right? But
Mhm.
then when I became a master sergeant and then a master guns, and then then I'm like, okay, wait a minute, like this is more than a performance, right? Because you have 300 Marines looking up to you. If you're how we retired at the wing, right? We have
Yeah.
all these Marines looking up to us, and you know what's your legacy, right? What's your
Yeah.
legacy going to be when you retire,
Yeah.
when you're gone, and what's your legacy, right? Do you
Mhm.
want people to say, well, dang, wow, forget Master Guns Brown, like right? uh but and then on top of that, like once I retired, right, then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, who are you? What do I retired out of the Marine Corps, and I was working up near LA, well, in LA, and it was a blue collar neighbor, it was a blue collar area, blue collar job, it was manufacturing.
Mhm.
And I was in charge of I was in charge of 10 grown men. I was in charge of 11 grown men, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, so what, you've been deployed, so what, you gone to Iraq, can
They
you
don't care. They
they
don't
don't
care.
care, they
They
did
don't
not
care,
care,
bro.
they honestly did not care. um so I was like, man, like, so it was kind of ego. It was kind of, it's a little bit of an ego check. You know what I mean? Like I had to, like, because, I had to prove myself, right?
That's
Because,
right.
me coming in as a maintenance manager and not growing up within within that particular company, they were kind of like, man, okay, who is this guy? Right.
Mhm.
But so I had to really, you know, put the sleeves up and really learn, to prove myself and to
Yeah.
prove that I was a part of the team.
Yeah.
And then, COVID happened, right? And then,
Mhm.
a lot of self-reflection during that time. And, at the same time, my first marriage was really starting to fall apart. And, I had to really dig deep and one, decide on what I wanted to do and what direction I was going to go. And it's not easy to say that you're going to to leave your family. It is not an easy decision. It is.
Right.
It was gut wrenching, to be honest. Like, like there were nights I was really literally sick to my stomach. Like, man, like, how are my kids going to look at me?
Yep.
How is my family going to look at me? How are my friends going to look at me? And but it was a decision I had to make for my sanity, for my peace, and yeah. So it's still evolving, right? I don't want to sound like I'm a perfect person right now, right? Because I still have my
Right.
things that I have to deal with, and my ego and my
Yeah.
insecurities. I still have to deal with those things, but I always draw back to the word discipline. I mean, literally, like it's like constantly in my head, like, no, man, that's not the right thing to do. That's not the right thing to say. That's not so I would say discipline is a major word in my life now, and that is something, if I can impart on anybody, discipline of yourself, discipline to lower your gaze, the discipline to not engage with stuff on social media, and not engage with the noise that we're
Constantly
constantly
bombarded with.
bombarded with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for sharing that, man. And
Yeah,
just,
bro.
being so honest and upfront about,
Mhm.
your own contribution to your own struggles. Like a lot of that stuff was self-induced,
Indeed.
Absolutely.
and owning it and
Yeah.
saying, man, I contributed a whole lot. And I remember those conversations we would have when you was going through that, bro.
Yeah.
And I know how how much it affected you. And I'm just forever appreciative that you trusted my listening ear as you were going through that. And
Mhm.
it's so beautiful to see you go through that fire and then come out on the other side
Mhm.
and make it a daily effort to be a better man, to be a
Yeah.
better husband, because
Yeah.
the 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 blueprint, you it's like you went through the blueprint of the
Yeah.
building,
Mhm.
and the flaws were revealed.
Mhm.
Now you get a chance with that same blueprint to perfect it and try to avoid those pitfalls
Right.
on the other side,
Yeah, absolutely,
So
man. I mean, it's like no, and like I said, man, I have a lot of grace now. Like, I don't want to be saying, well, my father this and my father that, or my uncle's this, or I don't want to be saying that, because they only know what they knew, right?
yeah,
They were men of their time, and you know it is what it is, right?
yeah,
And I don't want to pass judgment on people that are not here to defend themselves. But we sometimes we are a product of what we see in our environment, and sometimes
yeah,
some of the things that we see, they have a negative effect on us.
yeah,
And we have, but it's on us to grow and learn and push those things to the side, and be who we're called to be.
yeah. To so normally I'm on here. I'm the only master guns on the episode, but now you're in the midst of
Hey, it's all good,
the
bro.
bursting bombs.
The
Hey,
burst of bomb.
hey,
Technical.
Robbie's in the chat. JP Corville's in the chat.
I know JP. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you feel in your heart about that comment from JP Corville, AB Brown? AB.
I love JP. He was a sergeant major when I was a master sergeant, and so we served together. We did a couple of things together. We even actually did a couple of Tough Mudders. I think we did a Tough Mudder together.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, and so I think I don't want to assume, but I think that JP and we kind of have some similar paths, right? Or some similar experiences and so forth. So I definitely appreciate him, his comment, and I see him. I see his progression as well as a man.
Right.
I see him. I see him him growing as well. And you know, I learned from that, right? And you know, I learned like, man, you know, it's never too late to learn and grow, and it's never too late, you know, to be the men that we're called to be. And you're going to hear me keep saying that, right? You're going to hear me say the men that we're called to be, because like, look, I'm a modern person, right? I understand things. I understand that this is 2026 and not 1986, not even 1996,
Right.
for that matter, right? And I
Oh
understand the
six or
things that,
16.
yeah, yes,
That's right. That's right.
you know, but I believe that, you know, men and women have a calling, and I believe that, you know, men, we have a calling. It says it in the Bible that you are born with a purpose. You
Yeah,
know,
bro.
every person is born with a purpose, and this, you know, Stu and I, we were talking about this earlier, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it seems like the world right now is unbalanced, and
Mm,
specifically here in America, right? It's this, you know, there's political polarization, there's religious polarization, there is social polarization, it's like we're so divided right now, and the reason why we're so divided is because we're not fulfilling our purpose. We're not fulfill, and we don't. The reason why we're not fulfilling our purpose is because we don't know what our purpose is.
Mhm.
You know, we don't know what our purpose is as a woman, as a man. And I mean, I know we can go, you know, we could talk for the next 3 hours about that, right?
Yeah.
right.
But I think that that's part of it, right? And you know, we live in a society where, um, a person is arrested for, uh, you know, you can't even you can't even talk about a certain country, right? You know, it's just weird, you know, that we're living in the times that we're living in, right? And
Mhm.
but no one has been held accountable for the Epstein files. No one's being held accountable for a whole lot of things, right? And it's just really weird, that the world that we're living in.
Yeah.
And you know, but you know, I digress. You know, that we can talk about that for the next
No,
2 or 3 hours. But
Yeah,
no.
bro.
yeah,
You know, it makes sense that you are a traveled individual.
mm,
You've
yeah,
been all around the world. And I want to say you're the first person we've had on non-drill instructor. You did embassy duty. How did
yes.
embassy duty play a role in expanding your mind and really understanding that the world is such a big, diverse, beautiful place where people don't look, think, act, believe the same things?
Right. Right.
So you know,
Great question, bro.
growing.
Great.
So like as I mentioned, I grew up, an only child in my house, right? An only child in my house, and my mother worked two jobs. She worked two jobs for my elementary school years, my junior high school years, and part of my high school years, right? So I spent a lot of time alone. But one of the things that she always, emphasized for me was reading. She always wanted me to read. Like she would just bring home books all the time and just have me read. And then one of the things that this memory always sticks out to me is like every Sunday, my mother and I would go to the movies. This was elementary through until I started smelling myself, right? Uh,
right.
all of elementary, we would go to the movies, and I never forget it. We wanted to go. I know you guys heard of Gandhi, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Indian, right? But I don't know if you guys saw the movie. There was a movie on him a long time ago. So we went to the movies. We watched this movie, and that was the first time I my eyes were open to the outside world, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like Indians and colonialism and the effects of colonialism and all of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of already grew up with a mind of, you know, wow, like there's a other world out there, right? There's other
Mm-hmm.
cultures, there's other, and then on top of that, you know, like when I was 16, I converted to Islam, and so then I had to connect. I was a 5% at first, right? So that kind of, what I mean. So I was part of the Nation of Gods and Earths, right? And then,
Peace,
then I,
law.
yeah, peace, you know what I'm saying? What's the day's mathematics?
No
You know
doubt.
what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Knowledge,
So
understanding. You know what I
yes,
mean?
knowledge, understanding, wisdom. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I grew up with that. So I already kind of had an eye, a vision of like, okay, there's other people that we're connected to, right? And being Muslim as a converting to Islam, then I felt a connection to the Arab world, right? And then on top of it, then I started to feel like a connection to the African world, right? So I kind of grew up having eyes open, right? And then, first unit out of A school was Okinawa. I'm like, yo, send me. Let's
Yeah.
go. Put me on the first thing smoking. All right. So then I went to Japan and then went to embassy duty. And everybody's like, oh man, I want to go to England. I want to go to Switzerland. I want to go to Sweden. I want to go, all these. I'm like, yo, what's open in Africa, right? And I lo and behold, I end up in Africa, right? I end up in Senegal, and it was a Muslim country, 98% Muslim, but it wasn't Arab, right? So it was a different perspective, right? It's a different, if I can say so, it's a different way of Islam is practiced there because it's just different, right? Kind of like the long lines where a Southern Baptist church and a predominantly white church, right? It's just different, right? You know what I mean? Not wrong or right, it's just different. And and then because of that, because I was Muslim, they were like, oh man, we never had a Muslim Marine, like right? And not only, I mean, I was practicing and observing Ramadan and still PTing with the Marines and all of that, right? So it opened my eyes again to one, like, man, we're more connected to Africa than we really realize, right?
Absolutely.
And then on top of that, like, just experiencing the Islam there, and then seeing extreme poverty, like that was really eye-opening too, right? And then from there went to London. Great experience, but it was just like being in the States, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean? So it's just like being in the States. And then went back on embassy duty, and then went to another Islamic country, Indonesia, right? Again, it was a different perspective, right? Wasn't.
Were you in Bali?
Sorry?
Bali?
No, not Bali.
Okay.
Jakarta.
Okay.
Yeah, Jakarta. Yeah. And so again, different version of Islam, right? Because Islam wasn't forced there, right? It was it kind of grew through trade. You know what I mean? So, and I just want to say this, like most they say that Islam was bought by war, but that's not true. That's not
true,
right? And so, but Indonesia,
not what I read. That's not
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that in
Yeah.
Indonesia was because it was through trade, right? And now it's 95% Muslim, but but then I got to experience some terrorism, some real terrorism, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of, like, man, like, okay, what's going on here, right? This is not the Islam that I knew and learned and grew about, right? And then, boom, and then we had 9/11, and then, so a lot of those things kind of affected me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it kind of, and we'll talk about that later, but it kind of affected me and how I practice, religion myself, right?
Absolutely.
But
because Islamophobia was and still is very real.
Well, this year's, right now, that's the boogeyman, right? You know, 6 months ago it was the Haitians, right? Haitians are eating cats in Ohio, right? So it's like they need it's like
That's
crazy. It's like the media needs a boogeyman, 6 months from now, it'll be something else, right?
Yep.
But I think at the end of the day, we should all just kind of learn from each other. And to answer your question, Stu, like my eyes were open as a kid that there's different worlds and different people out here. But even now, I really feel that like man, like if we all just think about it, just come together, right? And instead of looking at differences, look at the things that we have similar.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And but yeah, man. So I think I was made for embassy duty, right?
Yeah.
And
That was a blessing for you, man.
yeah, it was definitely a
That
blessing
was
for
a
me.
real blessing.
And
Yeah.
the thing was, I wanted to be a sergeant major, right? And I came off embassy duty. I came off
Yeah,
embassy
man.
duty the first time.
I'm going on mute. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah,
Hey, I love y'all, bro.
I came
wanted to
off.
be a master gun too, dog. I
Did you
wanted to be a master gun. I did. Once as a first sergeant, I was like, bro, I want to cross over to master gun.
Yeah,
As a
but
first sergeant.
I
Too
came off
much
embassy
paperwork.
duty. Yeah, man. I came off embassy duty, and I was on the HIS list 6 months later, like for recruiting duty.
Yeah.
Like I just got back, but long story short, I was on the HIS list 3 times. That third time, they were like, "Hey, you're going, buddy. You're going." And I was like, "Man, I got to do something here, right?" I was like, "If I'm going to do a B billet, I'm going to do the one that I want to do." And I wanted to go to drill field.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
I contacted both the MSG monitor and the DI monitor. Back then, 2000, you could do it was Wild Wild West. You could do anything you wanted to do. And I called them both, and I was like, "Hey, what can I do? I don't want to go on recruiting duty. I'm just going to tell you straight up, I do not want to go on recruiting duty. I want to go be a DI, or I want to go back on MSC duty." And I faxed them both.
You said
I faxed both of them. Facts. I faxed my application or whatever, so to speak. And MSG monitor just called me back. He was the first one to call me back, and that's how I ended back up on embassy duty. And I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, make map and squadron gunny and this and that and all that, and right. And I like, it is what it is, right? And
right.
I said, God doesn't make mistakes, right? Like, this is a blessing. And I was able to stay in my MOS, and I think, especially working with Stu, I think we did some good things those last few years, and I'm definitely proud that I retired as a master guns. I mean, it's only 8 in our MOS, 9 maybe. So I'm glad that I had that opportunity to retire as a master guns, to be promoted to master guns and retire as a master guns.
Yeah, you got that picture, Tio?
No, I don't see it, bro.
I texted to you. I text you too.
Man, still, hey, I'll pull it up. I'll get it on here, 100%.
All right. So while you're doing that, everything you talked about makes me think about demonization of religions and other people, right? You had such an excellent point about Islam being practiced in different ways, and the way some in the West paint Islam is totally opposite of what Islam truly is at its foundation.
Right, absolutely.
And then these same people who read the same Holy Bible don't believe the same things.
No.
And I'm like, your point was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Methodist, Presbyterian, Catholic, holiness, evangelical, they read the same scripture and they don't practice the same way. And what that lets me know is every element of religion has has bad people.
Yes, absolutely.
That do things in the name of religion that's totally opposite of what the scriptures direct you to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, to get into it, I mean, I don't want to. I hope I don't disturb some of your viewers here,
Nah, man.
but a lot of things, because prior to 1900, right? I mean, minus the little thing that we had with the Barbary with the in the Barbary Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prior to 1948, what problems did we have with the Islamic world? None. And then we talk about America being a Christian nation, as people like to say. It's not a Christian nation. It's a nation that allows us to have freedom of religion. And but in the same token, right? I do believe that if you immigrate to this country, and there's a reason why people are immigrating to this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the opportunities of capitalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the main reason why people immigrate to this country, because of the opportunities that capitalism presents, and it
Yep.
presents a lot of opportunities, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
come here, you might have, you come here. Let's say, for example, you come from the Middle East. You come here, you open up a restaurant, or you you know what I mean, or you do this or you do that, right? So that's the point. There is a lot of opportunity here, and I do believe that a person should respect the laws of the country that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
But at the same time, we are allowed to practice whatever religion you are, whether you're Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, um, whatever it is, But I do, I do believe that, one, you should come to this country legally. I am a conservative on that, and from that perspective, I am a conservative on that. I do believe that you should come to this country legally, and I do believe that if you do come to this country, that you should respect the laws of the country, and be respectful of other religions that you encounter. And that's my perspective. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, and that
Yeah.
that that makes sense. That
Mhm.
that doesn't mean abandon
Yeah.
or have anything forced on you. No matter where you go. And To,
Mhm.
you coming from Kentucky, spending time in New York,
Mhm.
getting exposed to Islam being
Mhm.
practiced in different variations.
Yeah.
How did that play out for you? I know it expanded your thought process in regards to spirituality and God.
Yes. Um, Man, I wore this for you tonight, AB.
All
You know what
right.
I'm
All right.
saying? I
Yes.
wore
All right.
this
I
for
see it.
you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I love it.
I wore it for you, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because we say lead by example,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and we stress that as
Yeah.
Marines for one. And I applaud you, man. I respect you. I appreciate you. Um, I admire you. Just based on the fact, like you said, you took that path at 16 years old. It is a sincere, disciplined path.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And um I when I see you, I think about Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. You know, I think about Ali.
Yeah.
I think about Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just for me, it's like, man, you can't be afraid, man, to seek God.
No.
And for me, shout out to Master Sergeant Eddie Arcee, man.
Hmm.
When I retired, AB, um, I told my wife, I said, man, babe, I want to go to Egypt for my retirement. I just want to see it with my own eyes. If you want to go with me, great. If you don't, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, AB, man. Obviously, yeah, of course I'm going. Why would not? So we get out there, man, and the gentleman that picked us up, cared for us, took us to his home. I met his family, and
Hmm.
traditionally, all the things they do as Muslims, man, and for my wife to experience it in a way to where she was like, "Yeah, I respect this
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
the culture is so different,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and more so in a lot of ways seeking God.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like from sun up to
To
sundown,
sundown.
Yeah, yeah,
everything they did out there was in some form or fashion
yeah.
seeking God.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Ibrahim, shout out to
Yeah.
Mustafa in Luxor, Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
But Ibrahim was the tour guide for Eddie Arce. When
Oh,
Eddie
okay.
Mm.
Arce, when he
Mm-hmm.
was stationed in Bahrain, he just woke up one weekend and said, "Hey man, I'm going to Egypt. I'm already out here. I might as well go."
Yeah.
Ibrahim took care of him. So when Eddie gave me his number, I start reaching out to him.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he answered, I said, "Peace, good brother. I'm T.O.
Yeah.
Clay." He's
Yeah,
like, "I heard a
absolutely.
lot about you, and Eddie RC, my friend. He's my friend." But I say that,
Mhm.
man. Based on as a kid, man, I love Muhammad Ali,
Yes.
and this ain't about me tonight, AB. This is about
Yeah.
you, my
Yeah.
brother. Um, but I have family, man, that they really wasn't feeling him changing his name. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They like, hey, that boy Clay, it all the way to coming to America with Eddie Murphy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
His
Yeah.
mama called him Clay. I'm calling him Clay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
what I love about my dad and my dad being a pastor and
Yeah.
my dad, understanding that, hey son, it's your family for one, and that's the path that he chose. He's not killing nobody. He's not hurting nobody. He's not people hating, but then
Mm-hmm.
he gets in the ring and they love him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
So uh, I began to study Ali a lot as a kid, man. Retraced his steps,
Yeah.
from the Islam standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, and I just, like I said, man, this shirt actually, I love hip hop. I don't know if you can
Mhm.
see it, but
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you
I know.
know,
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
my
yeah,
bad.
Hey, I
yeah,
need that shirt. I need that,
yeah,
man. You need to
no
give me the
doubt.
link to
Yeah,
that.
he gave it to me a couple of months
Yeah.
ago. I went to his concert here, and when I introduced myself, I said my name is T.O. Clay. He's like, Clay, man, where you from? I'm like, man, I'm from Kentucky. He's like, they go crazy
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
backstage. Him and his
Yeah.
people going crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he, man, just the embrace that he gave me. He
Right.
was
Mhm.
Right.
like, man, you come from royalty, man. So
Right. Right.
it just. But again, if I rock this shirt, some people will see this and this automatic, like I,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, and that's a sad thing.
Right.
It
You
is.
Absolutely.
know, it's a real sad thing. So I
Yeah.
just hearing you, discuss it. We talked a little bit about it last night, Stu,
Yeah.
Robbie, and
Yeah.
I, and we like, bro, like we gotta do our part in breaking those molds. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking those molds, man. So yeah,
I,
yeah, I appreciate that question, Stu.
Man, let me read something AB wrote, right? This is on page 96. He says, while the Marine Corps shaped my external discipline, my internal transformation came through Islam. Islam
Yeah,
offered
bro.
clarity, but clarity only works when you confront yourself honestly. Faith taught me that strength is controlled and that leadership begins with self mastery, which goes back to how you open up talking about chapter 20. I thought that was just
Yeah,
so
bro.
so beautiful
yeah.
because
It's powerful.
you're not telling everybody they need to convert to Islam.
No.
You're
Absolutely.
saying, and just like Louis Alicio the other night, he's not telling everybody to convert to Catholicism. He
Mm-hmm.
is saying Catholicism is the path that I found to my
Mm-hmm.
purpose.
Indeed.
AB is saying Islam is what did that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's somebody who finds peace in their purpose in worshiping trees, go for it.
Go for it.
I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you found something that you connected with. And instead of me judging you and trying to force my beliefs onto you, maybe I should stop and listen and see how you found purpose from converting back to Islam because you had already established that foundation as a kid. And then as you matured, and life started happening for you and you making these mistakes, you're like, you know what? I do know where the guiding light takes me back to.
Yeah,
But I just
Absolutely.
have to be disciplined enough and own my mistakes. And Islam is what allowed me to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have the book, right, and I'm like, I read through a lot of the chapters, right, and some of them were very, very touching and very good. And but what to hear you read what I wrote, like, man, wow, like,
That's you, dog.
yeah.
No doubt.
But
No doubt.
to bring it back to that, like, I think remember going back to what I was saying, performative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was making my salah 5 times a day. I was fasting. I was giving charity. I was doing these things, but but then on the side, I was not doing what I should have been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to a point where I actually started going to church with my ex-wife, and we tried, but I think in my heart, I just couldn't, what I mean? Like, I respect the religion. I respect Christianity. We love Jesus, right? That's the thing that people don't know. Like, we love Jesus and admire. There's a chapter in the Quran named after Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? So
Mm-hmm.
America's only in the Western nations are you allowed to criticize Jesus or use Jesus' name in a vain way. You do that in Saudi Arabia, or you do that in Turkey,
Egypt,
or Iran, or Egypt. Like, you're gonna find yourself in trouble, because
that's a fact, bro.
like that's
a fact.
They hold Jesus in a high regard.
Yeah.
So to bring it back again, like, I think had I been doing what I should have been really, really doing, right? And I think what I had to do was take a look at myself and say, why am I doing these things, right? And I mean, I'm going to get real here, right? We do these things because something is missing in our lives. Something is missing in our lives because we don't have the focus. We don't have the discipline. We don't realize that we're all born for a purpose in this world. And when you off balance like that, you start searching for other things to fulfill that void that you're missing. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I went to other things to fulfill that void, right? Being stressed out at home. Okay, what can I do to fulfill that void? Other things, right? Not feeling like enough as a father, right? What do? You turn to those things, right? And because we don't remember our purpose. If we remember our purpose and know, right? God gave me the ability to father a child. God gave me the ability to marry another person and love and protect that person. And I took it for granted.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So man, I'm telling you, man, like I get, I get like a little choked up sometimes when I think about those things, right?
Yeah.
Like, personalities are personalities, right? Regardless, the situation with my ex-wife, it just would have ended as it did, right?
Yeah.
But I do need to take my ownership and take responsibility for my actions and the things that I did and said, and remove myself from that and live to who I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Yep.
And it's
Wow.
It's constant, man. I mean, this is something that's constant, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm even getting to the point where now, like, I'm not extremist here, right? But I'm even getting to the point where now I don't even listen to music, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I go to the gym, I put on podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we listen to hip hop, I love hip hop, man. Like, I love hip hop. I'm going to Nas concert in 2 weeks. All right, I saw Wu-Tang last year. Like,
Let's go.
I am a hip hop connoisseur. Like, I love hip hop music, right? But I know also what it does.
Indeed.
Right? It's still misogyny. It's still talking about sex and this and that and this and money, and like, how would me listening to that, how is that going to fulfill my purpose?
Indeed.
I don't want to be extreme here, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be an extremist, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to refrain on what I'm listening to so much, right? I'm not going to, because it just sparks something in you, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the discipline tying into what you just said and what we talked about a couple of nights ago about investing in yourself and what you feed yourself through your ears. It forced me to pull back and get rid of some stuff that I was listening to because it wasn't fulfilling. And then, I start printing out lyrics. Now I'm matching the lyrics to what I'm listening to. And I'm like, okay, for me, not for anybody else.
Right.
I had to delete and stop listening to certain stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I needed to.
I feel you.
Go ahead, Tio.
I was going to say, man, like the higher you go in striving for righteousness, man, in whichever way you're coming with it. Like me, I study a lot, man. You know what I'm saying? I love, like you said, what your mom did for you as a young man. She exposed you to reading, and automatically, man, the endorphins begin to start popping off. When I look at my stash of books, man, from Francis Cress Wilson, ISIS Papers,
yes,
just it's so many, man. Muada Ashby, and
man, AB had some really good conversations in Okinawa.
This conversation is amazing. This conversation right here, bro, is so needed. You know what I mean? The chat got real quiet. Like it's quiet in the chat right now, and it's all the brothers that we are. They're thinking, man. It takes, in my opinion. So my voice start rising, man. When I really start feeling that, man, like Ali had to be bold in what he did. You know what I mean? He had to be bold, bro. Right. And he confessed with his mouth. Yeah, I am the greatest. You know what I mean?
So
go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
There's a lot of clips on YouTube on that we didn't see as kids that we were growing up, right? We didn't see it because it just wasn't accessible like as it is now. But there's lots of clips with Muhammad Ali speaking. There's lots of clips with James Baldwin speaking. There's a lot of clips with Malcolm X and so forth, right? Pretty much when we were growing up, we saw Reverend, Al Jackson, Dr. King. That's the clips that we saw, right?
Yeah, that's what was fed in school too.
That's what was fed to us, right?
None of your books talked about Malcolm X in school.
Yeah,
not none of them. You know what I mean?
No. The other comedian I love, he passed away some time ago.
George Gregory.
Dick Gregory.
And
George Carlin. I love George Carlin. But to talk, depending on like Muhammad Ali, that was a highly, highly, highly disciplined man.
Absolutely.
He didn't before fights, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't do any of those things. And and he was a handsome guy, right? So lots and lots.
I know.
Yeah. Right. So lots and lots of people were trying to get his attention, right? But to see some of the things, like some of the clips that he had when he was in interviews, like, man, like that wasn't performative either, man. That was a person that
man spoke boldly, bro. He moved culture forward, AB.
Yes, absolutely. And I wish I could be that authentic as he was, because he was a really authentic person. James Baldwin was a really authentic person. Like, I don't, worry about his sexuality or anything like that, but he was still, a highly authentic person and spoke his truth. Even when people would use things against him, right? His sexuality, his looks or something like that, but he still spoke with boldness and truth. And the same thing with Malcolm X. Like, man, like I wish I could be that authentic, and and not worry about what someone's going to say about me or comment, right?
Yeah.
But those, I look at them and I'm like, man, those are highly disciplined people, right? Highly, like, they know their purpose, right?
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali knew his purpose.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to meet him, and when I was on embassy duty, he came to the embassy in London.
Look at that.
Yeah, and we got in the elevator at the same time. I was going up to, I was getting off post, and we got in the elevator at the same time. And at that time, the Parkinson's was already starting to set in. Yeah. But he was still kind. I shook his hand, and I was kind of starstruck. And then at the same time, I was like, man, like the Parkinson is really starting to, it was really it was in the beginning stages.
It hurts me too, because it's like when you look at Malcolm was still building. You know what I mean? When he went to the holy city of Mecca, he came back. We all know, he some scabs fell off of his eyes, and he was still reaching for discipline. When he found out truth in terms of some things that were happening from his teacher, his mentor, he boldly went. He boldly sought that out. He made his informed decision. Things began to shift. But what I love, man, is when I don't think the Lord thy God has vice grips on us. You know what I mean? That's what I look at, man. If Robbie Lytle wears a kufi, he's looked at crazy from certain individuals, and like you said, from we were raised on hip hop, many of us. I'm 50 now, listening to Brand Nubian, listening to Rakim, listening to Nas, listening to X Clan, listening to Poor Righteous Teachers, listening to King's Son. Lakim Shabazz, like you said, we will absorb it. So when we're saying word is bond, you know what I'm saying? What up, son? Not SON, SUN. The symbolic of the sun. So as you was talking about the 5%, we were speaking the language through the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at like 13 years old, a lot of my partners that I was rhyming with were 5%. You know what I'm saying? They'd always tell me, yo, we don't care, if you serve, through Christianity. We don't care if you're Muslim, because 5%ers don't claim to be Muslim. You know what I mean?
No, that's right.
But the teachings, you start seeing the interweaving of the teachings all throughout. What's his name? Michael. I think it's like McKnight or something. Michael McKnight that wrote the book on the 5%. Yeah. He traveled the world. He did the studying. He was with the Sunni. He was able to take it and put it all into one form. But you see brothers go from, like you said, 5% to Islam. I ask you this, AB. Did you ever run into any controversy as a Marine because you practiced the Muslim faith? Any controversy?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I came in at a time early 90s, right? We just left the first Gulf War, right? The stigma, the memory of what happened in Beirut was still fresh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so all our gunnies or staff sergeants would have remembered that vividly, right? They would have remembered that because every staff sergeant and gunny at that time would have came in the late 70s or early 70s, right? So all of that was still vivid in their minds. Even for my mom, when I was packing my stuff to go, I had my Quran, and my mom, I remember her taking it from me because she was like, no, they're going to give you a hard time. They're going to give you a hard time. Like they're going to give you an extra hard time. So I don't want you to take it. And I was like, I just kind of went along with it. I wish I would have took matter of fact, I know I took it with me. I did take it with me. I did take it with me to boot camp, and but I remember her and I having an exchange about it. And I remember one time, like we were forming up for PT, right? We were forming up for PT, and then you're stretching and all this kind of stuff, right? And then some guys were behind me, like making fun, saying Allahu Akbar, doing all these kind of silly things, right? And I look back and I'm like, hey man, like I don't, I'd rather you not do that, And I was just, I think I was a corporal at the time, and they're like, oh, what, you some kind of raghead? That was a derogatory term that we use, right? So I kind of was had an exchange with them, right? So that was one instance, and then I remember a time I went to a barbecue at a Marine's house, and they thought it was funny to give me pork on purpose, right?
Oh
man. Like they were kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? You're gonna,
man,
and that's something that stuck with me since like 1994.
Oh man,
right?
you talk about real PTSD.
Yes,
that's real PTSD, bro.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
And I just remember them laughing about it and like, oh man, like, oh, you okay, man? Like no, man, that's not okay.
See, that's ignorance. Okay. That's pure. That's pure ignorance, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
bro. You know how much. Wow, you know how much I barbecue and cook, right?
Yeah.
Wow, bro.
Never once did I think about violating AB's discipline about pork.
Yeah.
I ain't there.
Yeah.
I love pork. But never once
did
it come.
You don't like beef. This is weird.
I don't eat beef.
I haven't consumed pork since 2001.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, and I'm that same way with beef, but again, what makes you make the decision to be strict on your diet like that? Instead of making fun of, inquire as to why.
Yeah.
And I never want to make AB feel
that hurts my soul, man. That hurts my soul, AB.
Yeah, it is a time when
hurts my soul, bro.
Yeah, it's a time when it's 1994, it's early 90s. People are ignorant, right? They don't understand, they don't understand, the conviction of people when they have dietary rules, right? And then on top of that, it's coming off, my unit that I was with, they actually deployed to Gulf War. Right. And so, they were just kind of like, they just didn't care, and they thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny at all. I was really,
not then and not now.
No, and it even hurt my heart more. It was a brother, right? And I'm like, man, come on, man, like, come on, like, really?
But it doesn't matter, AB, because it's still ignorance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's it.
That type of ignorance has no color.
No,
you know what I mean?
There it is.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Kosher. Dog, I've seen Marines go across base just to take care of PFCs that are kosher.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like, but again, it's if it's not brought to light, bro, people just won't know. None of us can condemn someone for what they do not know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, like I said, I haven't consumed pork since 2001, and it's not based on me being Muslim. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was reading ISIS papers. It was coming into my own terms of like, yo, when I was a young buck, man, we ate pork almost every day. I grew up in a household. My pop's like, hey boy, you guys want to eat that hot dog? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
But once I joined the Marine Corps in '98, I started seeing the world like you, AB.
Yeah.
I started realizing, like, man, I was raised to know who God is. However, it only went to a certain extent of what it could be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've had all these conversations with my family. Everyone in my family knows he does not consume pork. But it took time, just like I'm sure with you. You know,
Yeah.
once if all it takes is a person to sit kneecap to kneecap with you, AB,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they understand, you know, from kneecap to kneecap that, man, wow, okay, I understand that. But it's the
Hmm.
people who don't want to take the opportunity to learn to understand, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
my immediate family, they're very understanding. You know what I mean? They respect me, they respect my beliefs and so forth. And you know, if I go home, they make sure, you know, my cousin, you know, like I won't see her for years, and then when I go to her house, you know, she'll say, hey, you know, hey, just so you know, there's no pork in it, right? So you know what I
Honor.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
so my family is very respectful and loving to me, right?
Yeah.
So, which in
yeah,
turn
bro.
they respect my beliefs, regardless if they agree with them necessarily or
That's
not.
right.
So,
Right.
I
And
definitely appreciate that.
the three of us being on screen together and the relationship that you and I, AB, have had all over all of these years, never once did I question our friendship based on what you ate or did not eat, who
Yeah,
you worshiped or did not worship. It
yeah,
all came back to our basic humanity.
yeah, yeah,
That was
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
That
man.
was
That's
it. I
just,
didn't.
That's real, bro.
In the same way, I don't want people judging me because I don't eat beef.
yeah.
Right.
If you
Right.
want to know why, I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But don't force it or tell me I'm some kind of sucker or I ain't masculine because I don't eat red meat.
Yeah, 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 absolutely,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it comes down to the human decency, right? You know,
Yeah,
you know, you
that's it.
treat people with respect, and you know, don't give somebody something that they don't, you know, they don't
Yeah,
eat,
bro.
right?
That's hurtful, bro. That
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I've
I'll
heard,
never forget that
whew,
moment.
Wow.
I had a
And
person that
somebody go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Tim.
bro.
I was gonna say somebody watching needs to hear what you're saying. Either
Yeah.
they're doing the offending by doing ignorant stuff like that, or somebody is not comfortable being who they truly are
Hmm.
because of fear of judgment or how they'll be teased,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
And it takes testimonies like what you're telling for people to say, you know what? Thank you for saying that because
hmm
I've experienced it too.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
you know, like I said, man, I think everybody can, you know, I think everybody has room for growth, and I think that, you know, in today's society, there is no reason why you shouldn't know or research something on your own. And you know, instead of taking sound bites, and I'm talking, you know, I'm just talking about, you know, religion right now, right? Instead of taking sound bites off of Fox News, uh, learn what something is, right? Don't just take it for, you know, what you see on Fox or even CNN for that matter. Uh, take your
Well,
opportunity to learn about something. I mean, I am a student of life, right? I
Yeah, bro.
like you, Tio. I'm sure Professor X. You know, I know you got a huge library, and I
Yeah.
try to learn as much as I possibly can. You know, whether I
yeah.
agree with it or not, or you know, I can either take it a part of it, you know, and
Mhm.
say, okay, I like this, or I don't. Like, you know, I have books from, uh, uh, you know, learning about the oh god, it's eluding me right now, but I started learning, you know, about what Judaism really is, because I really didn't
Yeah.
Mhm.
know, right?
Yeah,
I
me
didn't,
too.
Mhm.
Me
you know,
too.
like, okay,
Bro,
like
you have to expand it, bro.
you
Like
have
why
to
Right.
explain yourself, right?
and think about this, AB, and I'm not cutting you off, but man,
Yeah.
I have to say this, bro. Like if we really cared about all the different disciplines to make up McMap, like we pride on that, bro.
Yeah.
You know, Marines,
Yeah.
hey, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
judo, thing on
Brazilian
mixed
juice.
martial arts,
Yeah.
jujitsu,
Yeah.
karate, you know, kung fu, and it's all comprised into one, and that makes up our McMap.
Mhm.
But our brain freezes at below 32 degrees when we say, okay, pick up the Quran and read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was taught that ain't it. So I
Yeah.
ain't doing it. Okay. You
Yeah.
can't force feed nothing down. When I first checked in the first Battalion, First Marines, bro, as a PFC, my corporal, still one of my best friends to this day, Corporal Jensen Ford, dog. He sunned me. Dog, when I went in his barrack room, he had this little table and he had the big Quran sitting on it. And I remember I sat down and he's talking to me about getting adjusted to the unit. doing what I need to do, being at the shop on time, all that good stuff. And he said, do you have any questions for me, PFC? I said, you study the Quran? He said, I do. He's from Trinidad. He was like, I
Mm-hmm.
do. And I
Yeah.
also study the Bible. I also
Mm-hmm.
study Sun Tzu. I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
study, he's, and so I was exposed early and I felt, good about that. Cause I was like,
Mm-hmm.
man, okay. Um, and we began to study together, man. And he was showing me
Mm-hmm.
the correlation,
Yeah.
going to
Mhm.
Thailand, going on the West Packs and all of that. And you around so much different culture, man, to where it's just like, yo, if 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 Ibrahim and Mustafa out in Cairo, Egypt, came out of the womb as Muslim, and now they're 45, 50 years old and they're still Muslim in their country. And man, I spent time with those gentlemen, AB, Professor Stu, and it is real peace. Like them
Mm-hmm.
dudes was literally giving me the clothes off their back, man. They
Yeah.
respected my spouse. They
Right.
fed us in their home. And if you don't know, yo, they on the floor, AB.
Yeah.
Dog, it's like 50 dishes.
Yeah.
And they taste every one, bro. Me and my
Yes.
wife sitting there like, bro, we
Yeah.
can't eat
Yeah.
no
You
more.
anymore.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the wives couldn't come in there and eat. You know what I mean? And he explained that to us. And he was like, hey, sister, he explained it. But man,
Yeah.
I just say all in all, like, man, we see certain perspectives and it's acceptable. Same, thing over here, we see it and it's like, nah. Because again,
Mhm.
you know, the neighborhood that I live in is a very nice neighborhood, gentlemen. There's probably about 26 homes in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 26 homes, 23 of them are African American.
Mm.
Doctors, lawyers, us, military, professors at the University of Georgia down the road in Athens. A very affluent neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's Muslim, it's Christian, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's 7-day Adventist, it's
Right.
Catholics, all in this neighborhood. You know what I mean? And we'll go up in the cul-de-sac and just building together, man. And
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing when you see unity. When you see
Yep.
unity, it is a
Yeah.
real beautiful thing, fellas.
Yep.
I got a question for you. I mean, I know that this is you guys kind of interviewing me, but the beauty of the Marine Corps is, all these different people that you immediately are shoved into, right? Or have to live with, right, from day one you enter boot camp,
Mhm.
and it is culturally diverse. I want to ask you both, like, how do you think the Marine Corps has shaped you, and before your perspective of joining the Marine Corps? Like, I would imagine, Stu, you probably grew up in a small town in Georgia, right? And then
Black and white.
yeah, and then yeah. I just want to hear your perspective. Like
Yeah.
how's the Marine Corps shaped you based on the different cultures and people that you had to deal with.
Yeah, it's almost the exact opposite because I only knew the world in black and white. I knew
Mm,
there was more out there and I was curious. So when I joined the Marine Corps and I'm, in my boot camp platoon and seeing people of all different type of ethnicities, I'm like, this is cool.
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew it was out there
Uh-huh.
and it made me feel good to learn about people from different parts of the country. And then my time in the Marine Corps, meeting people from all over the world, it just helped me get a greater understanding that my way ain't the way. And it's up to me to learn about things that I'm not familiar with so that I
Hmm.
could come to the table with a more informed opinion,
Hmm.
Indeed.
specifically when it comes to religion, politics, just larger society. I don't like to get things from only one perspective. And if we're
Hmm.
Right.
only getting our news from a Western perspective and not interested in international news reporting on the same story, I think we collectively cheat ourselves because you then become a bobblehead and you don't feel the need to challenge the things that you're being presented or the
Right.
narrative that's being spent about a story.
Hmm.
So that's what the Marine Corps allowed me to do was really open my eyes and understand that this is a big old world
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Absolutely.
everybody don't do it like we do it and it's
Right.
okay. and that demonization of the other is where we we came from, and we are back to that point in this present moment. The
Absolutely.
demonization, anybody who don't look, think, and believe and act and worship and serve the same way that you do, you're bad.
Yeah.
And that's a sad state of affairs. But I still have hope.
Right.
Still have hope.
Yeah.
Tio.
Yeah. How about you, Tio?
Yeah, man. A few things just going through my spirit, bro. January the 6th, bro. Just being the RS Sergeant Major, sitting in the office, bundles of things to take care of, and the CEO at the time, came in, Sergeant Major, you gotta come and see this. I'm like, what's going on, sir? Walk out in the hallway, him, the XO and the OPSO, and me. The three head honchos in the whole recruiting station. We're standing there, to include the recruiting instructor. Can't leave out Master Guns, no doubt. But anyway, we're standing there. I look up, it's on CNN, obviously, and the insurrection's happening. And I'll never forget, man, just looking at it, and I'm who I am. They're who they are. And I just said it, man. I said, man, if that was black folk, they probably would have all got mowed down.
Yeah.
And it was silence. And when I walked back in my office, and the CEO came and talked to me about it, and he was like, Sergeant Major, how am I going to go home and explain this to my child? He said, the country is in bad shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's things of that nature. It's being an officer candidate school, going on the night patrol. And Marines is dressed up like what you was called, a raghead. You know what I mean? You was called a raghead, bro.
Yeah.
When those towers got hit, you was probably looked at suspect.
I was.
Because, you are practicing your religious faith, bro. And that hurts my heart, bro. And those are just specific aspects. So many other great things. I had a young Marine, bless his heart. Man, he came to us. He was a young sergeant. And he was like our media Marine, posting on Instagram and getting photos at, different training and whatnot. He came in the office looking distraught. Sergeant Major, can I speak to you? Sure. What you got, Sergeant? He said, I'm getting married, and my wife, or soon-to-be wife, is Muslim. I've been a Christian my whole life. But her father told me you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they had to convert.
If I'm to marry her, I have to convert. And he said, and I'm not against it because I love her. He said, but I just want to know your thoughts, Sergeant Major. And I said, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, courts of freedom, our refinement, equality, God, build, destroy, born, cipher.
Yes, sir.
And he looked at me like, wow, Sergeant Major. I was like, hey, man, listen, you have to follow your heart. There's only one way to enter the kingdom.
Yeah.
And you have to submit your heart to God. And I said, I support you. And man, just to see the burden lifted off that young man. He ended up marrying her, converted. He's coming in the office talking to me about his imam, and he's like, Sergeant Major, like, I'm at the best feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. Had I known sooner, Sergeant Major, had I known sooner. And he asked me, are you Muslim, Sergeant Major? I said, I'm not.
Yeah.
He was like, are you Christian? I said, man, I was born and raised a Christian. I was baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I said, I study Islam. I study Buddhism. I study, the African Kemetic system. I study white supremacy. I study on Black Panthers. I'm gonna study it all.
Right.
And why wouldn't we? because,
Yeah.
like Stu said, if you do, you're more informed and you're more equipped to walk in any room in the world. And
That's right.
man, if you got God with you, you can speak that different aspect of the discipline in which we started this whole
Mhm.
thing on segment about. It
Yeah.
takes real discipline. How can I sit and watch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the greatest, of all times, for
Mhm.
many say, yo, he's the GOAT, not
Yeah.
Right.
Mike Jordan. He was in that room down in it wasn't Miami, but it may have been Jim Brown.
Nah,
Um,
that was at a
it,
press
it was
conference.
that was at a press conference. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
Mhm.
about? Arthur
I know what
Ashe,
you're talking about.
all of them
Yep.
cats came together. But how can I watch him on TV?
Right.
How can I wear his jersey, feel proud, number 33? You know what I mean? But still look at him suspect based on what he believes.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That is
insanity
crazy.
to
Yeah.
me.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's about looking at it from a different perspective. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, great
All
question,
right.
AB.
All right, fellas. We had that time where we got a wrap, but this
Oh man.
has been so powerful and so
Yeah.
insightful.
Oh man.
I want
Nice.
to I want to close it out with that right there, AB.
Yeah.
For the
Wow. That's a good
for
picture, man.
bro, for the folks who don't know, that is the those are the E9s in our MOS at
Yeah,
that time.
that's
There's
Patton in the
there's
middle, ain't it?
that is our dear sister Amy Patton
Yeah.
in the
Yes,
Amy
middle,
sir.
Patton.
Shout out
right?
to Pat.
Love
Yeah,
her, man.
Amy
yeah,
Patton,
man.
she was the glue, bro, that
Yeah.
kept us in line and
Yeah.
together and
Absolutely. Yeah.
organized, man.
Yeah.
But at one point, Glenn PG was at first Ma. I was at second Ma. AB was at third Ma. Gary Mumford was at fourth Ma. There are only 8 master guns in our MOS, and the big 4 commands were all led by master gunnery sergeants that you see here on the picture. Shout out to
Mhm.
Chad and
Yes.
and Roka,
And Roka.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean we just had a great synergy. But they used to call us the 4 horsemen because
Yeah.
in our MOS they never seen. They was like you,
Yeah.
and it was kind of this joke, right? You got to be a black master guns to be at one of the big 4
And
jobs
and bald.
and ball, right?
Wow.
AB, what do you think, man, when you see that? And that's how we're gonna close out.
Well, man, look, I first I want to say, I appreciate your thoughts on the question that I proposed to you guys, and I think that you can only experience that in the Marine Corps or in the military, serving in the military, like giving that type of advice, opening your eyes to see different aspects of the world. I think it's
Yeah,
I think it's something really unique. I think it's something we should not take for granted. I think we
yeah,
should always hold our time in the Marine Corps dear and respect that time. Like I know now my political thoughts are way different now than it was when I was in the Marine Corps, right? But looking at this photo, I am definitely appreciative of that time frame. I'm appreciative of Amy and her leadership and guidance,
Yeah.
and and then also being able to draw and get good answers and support from the fellow master guns that's in this picture, and especially you, Stu. Like you and I we've had some
Oh man.
phenomenal conversations, man. Like I
Yeah.
really appreciate you, brother. Like it's not often you can have friendships where it's not based on going out or something like that, right? But our friendship
Yeah.
has never been based on that. It's been based
Nah.
on social issues and Marine Corps and all of that. So I'm really grateful for you, man. And of course Gary, he's still a good friend of mine who's
Yeah.
doing well, who recently retired not too long ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Playing PG.
and yeah, and PG, right? So yeah, man, I this picture is nostalgic. I actually forgot about this picture. And
we were at the Pentagon.
That's right. That's right, man. Oh my God. Yeah. And that was a good time. That actually was a really good visit because we went to the
Absolutely.
museum
Mm-hmm.
right.
and then so forth. So yeah, man, this is a great picture, man. If you can, man, send this picture to me.
I definitely
Yeah.
will. You got that other one, Theo?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was my retirement.
That's the four horsemen right there.
We need to fix it, man, because so we can see we we need to Photoshop it a little bit.
Man, but that just, again, we
Yeah.
talk about these relationships that we've had over the course of years. Like, these are genuine, true brotherhoods that we've developed, and I don't take that for granted. And I'm terrible at taking pictures in the moment, because I like want to be in the moment. And I'm so thankful that somebody is smart enough to take pictures, because when I see stuff like this, like, I was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
With AB, that was so good, man.
Yeah, that was a good retirement ceremony, man. And I was grateful for I was grateful for people who came out to share that moment with me. At that time, I was grateful for my ex-wife and of course my kids, and my mother being there. It was a good moment, and that day, that week coincided with the conference. Right, our conference. So that was really good to have all the master guns there too, man. So
yeah,
that moment is that I've had some good moments, man. I really have a lot to be grateful for, and I'm glad that I've learned a lot from that particular point. I'm glad that I continue to learn. I'm grateful that I was able to be a part of this book. It was kind of like therapy for me. Put my thoughts into my chapter. My wife now, she read it. She was like, she almost got choked up. She was like, wow, I didn't know you, like one, she's like, I didn't know you could write like this. And then two, she's like, man, like, this is a nice story. And then, then I'm like, man, like, why are you, like, I'm looking at her, like she's there, she's reading. And I'm like, babe, are you still reading my chapter? And she's like, no, I'm reading the other ones. Right. And she was like, wow, some of these stories are really heavy. And I was, you know what I mean? Awesome, so appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. And, I'm glad and grateful that a person who never, she didn't have any experience in the Marine Corps or military for that matter. I'm glad that she was able to not only appreciate my story, but other stories. And she read the whole book in one night. So awesome. I'm glad that she was able to get something out of it. But she was like, man, some of these guys are, have some experiences. I say, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful for this one. I wish I could be there in Virginia with you guys. But I just put down some money, right? We had our wedding. And then that grew. It was supposed to be a small wedding, but it quickly grew legs. And then we just redid our kitchen. Yeah, man, I'm shelling out some bucks right now.
And we understand.
Yeah,
man. Thank you, AB, bro.
Man,
from the depths of my heart, I love you.
Yes. Love you, brother.
Yeah, bro.
I'm proud of you and the journey. And I can't say thank you enough for being on here, shedding some light on your story, your faith. T.O., close us out, bro.
Man, boy, discipline is the greatest thing you can have. Understand how to lower your gaze, to not engage with the noise, trying to be noticed, trying to be seen, trying to be performative, owning your failures. What's your legacy? Ego check. Admitting you have to deal with it. It's not easy looking at having to leave your family. God does not make mistakes. Be the men we are called to be. Went to movies with mom every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And religious polarization. Man, it's been a pleasure, AB. You freed my spirit tonight, bro. And I know this is what it takes to move the ball forward. This is what it takes, bro. We have to be bold, like Ali was bold, like you were bold. All of them years you spent in the Marine Corps, but you was aware You had the consciousness of what was really happening around you. And for that, brother, man, we salute you. Thank you for saying yes to be a part of this project. As we get up to Virginia Beach this weekend, man, you know you're there with us in spirit. We're going to
Yes.
come to San Diego. And bro, hey, we coming to find you, Ross Blaine. Y'all out there.
Yeah.
We're gonna connect, bro.
Yeah,
100,
Ross is about 15 minutes away from me.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. So yeah,
man.
let's please come to San Diego. We'll definitely we'll chop it up, man, and we'll have a great time. You know, I'll feed you all the tacos you can get, take,
bro.
and we'll have a great time, man. We'll have a great time. I'll have you in my home, and we'll break bread and you know, we'll have a great time.
Yeah.
And I truly appreciate this moment. It touched my heart. Both of you touched me today, and you know, I love you both. And
love you too, bro.
Me too,
yeah,
man.
This is great. I hope that, you know, I resonated. I'm sure you both resonated with somebody that was watching tonight, and I hope that I resonated with somebody. I hope somebody saw something in the words that I said, and I hope that the main thing they take away from this is that the greatest gift we can give ourselves is discipline.
Indeed.
And fulfill that purpose.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah. Love y'all out there. As we always say, emphatically say, without doubt, peace.
Peace and blessing. Assalamu alaikum.